I call opportunistic sampling, a prepared mind recognizing patterns and building on those patterns. So it was a clever observation.
I mean, do you think we should replicate that effort by having our insurance companies look into the impact of taking the prescription medications on their customers? I mean, there must be thousands and thousands of patients, for example, in the Medicare database.
There are, and these are great opportunities once one starts using what we call big data to find associations between vulnerability and resistance and things that we take for granted. When I worked with the National Biosurveillance Advisory Subcommittee for the White House, we had a whole program of what we call digital epidemiology that was designed to look at these kinds of observations and draw inferences that can be tested experimentally.
You tested positive for COVID-19, Dr. Lipkin. You actually put yourself, or your doctor, put you on an anti-malarial hydroxychloroquine. What was the experience with that, and did you feel comfortable going on it?
Yeah, I'm a physician like you, and my feeling is that I shouldn't treat myself. I should rely on other people's expertise. The infectious disease department here identified a physician for me who decided that this was the most appropriate regimen for me. I should say that Zhongyan Chen, who led much of the work that was going on in Wuhan, also made the same recommendation.
Do you have any complications on the therapy? It's impossible to tell if it worked.
Well, it's impossible to tell if it worked because I'm not a controlled trial. On the other hand, I can tell you that the loading dose of hydroxychloroquine wasn't pleasant. So I did have some vertigo, but that was the only symptom I had. And over a period of 4 or 5 days, I dramatically improved, but I don't know, again, whether that's the natural course or whether or not it's a reflection of the drug or both.
Let's get into this trial. The official China COVID-19 handbook currently includes hydroxychloroquine as a treatment. Let's discuss this small randomized study because it's this kind of information I suspect is educating the Chinese decisions. So this study, again, it's not yet peer-reviewed. It has not been published. And normally that would never happen, right? But in pandemic research, this has become the norm. The authors put it out there as quickly as they can so folks can look at it and make their decision as soon as they're done writing it. So Dr. Lipkin, who were the people who were included in the study and what were the meds that were given? Just organize it for the audience.
Well, this is the best study that I've seen of its type, although there was another very interesting study that came out of Marseille as well. The idea is they take people who are matched for age and sex and the stage of the disease, and then half gets the drug trial and half gets, a control. And then they compare the difference between the two. And there were improvements in the people who received the drug. They had 1 day shorter duration symptoms. Their cough tended to improve as well. So it is suggestive, very much so, that this is going to be an effective treatment. It does not substitute, however, for the kind of clinical trials we do in this country, which are ongoing now. And so we should have that sort of information soon.
So in this study, 4 patients from the control group progressed to severe disease while none in the hydroxychloroquine group did. Dr. Lipkin, you looked at the study, which did not look at viral load as that Marseille French study had. But it did look at clinical results. So I want to just slow down, just go through symptom by symptom what they did. So they tracked changes in fever and cough. The reduction from roughly a little bit over 3 days in the control group to about 2 days in the experimental group. Is that important? What does that mean to you?
I think it is significant. We have to make sure that it can be reproduced. But it certainly is the most encouraging information I've seen thus far.
And again, it was statistically significant in this small study. They also did something that is common in COVID-19 patients in China, but not here. They did CT scans to look at the lungs. And finding of pneumonia is pretty common with COVID-19. They reported that in the people who were receiving the hydroxychloroquine, there was an 81% reduction in pneumonia identified on the CT scan at the end of the 5-day experiment. The patients had gotten this medication for 5 days. The number was only 55% in the control population. That's also a significant difference. So what does that mean to you as an expert?
Well, it is significant, but typically when you publish a paper of this sort, you see tables and figures and demonstrations of the results. And what we really have here are summaries, so it makes it difficult for other people to independently verify what they've shown. Again, my take home for this is that there is increasing evidence to support the idea that hydroxychloroquine is going to be an important, drug that we may be able to consider in some of these patients. This is one of the reasons why randomized trials are being supported by the U.S. government. And in fact, at Columbia, we're sponsoring one right now in patients who are close contacts of individuals who are known to be infected. We have to figure out for every single drug that we propose whether or not it's most useful for people who've been exposed but don't yet have signs of disease, people who have mild disease, people who have severe disease, because the treatments are not going to be equal. We're going to find that some are better from one stage or another. And there may also be a situation where some people respond better than others. Sometimes there are differences by sex or by race, or by, for example, whether or not somebody has an underlying condition. The mechanism of action by which this drug could work is also unclear. It may have some direct antiviral properties, but it also has some sort of immunosuppression which might prevent some of the side effects of the viral infection, which aren't directly causing disease, but excite an immune response which is toxic.
Now, you mentioned you had a little vertigo when you first started taking the hydroxychloroquine on your own for your own ailment. In this study, there were some mild side effects in two patients. One had a headache and one had a rash. And just for everyone at home, the FDA has given emergency approval to distribute millions of doses of the anti-malarial drug we're talking about to hospitals to try this still not officially proven treatment to help slow the progression of the disease. Doctor, is that the right tactic? Again, this is just a small, albeit randomized, but a small unpublished trial. Is the FDA doing the right thing?
I would have preferred to see the trials completed. I think these are trials that could be completed rapidly, but I'm also sensitive to the fact that there's an enormous amount of pressure on people to do something. This, in the short term, is probably not going to have any deleterious effects, but there is toxicity associated with hydroxychloroquine, particularly if you take it in large doses over a prolonged period of time. So it is important that we resolve this as quickly as possible. And I think the director of NIAID, Tony Fauci, has alluded to this. We need to make sure that everything that we give to people, that we tell them is going to be effective or potentially effective, has been tested for safety and efficacy so that they can make informed decisions about how they want to treat themselves.
As a reminder for everyone at home, I'm going to echo what Dr. Lipkin's pointing about. This is not the time for a DIY self-medicating experiment. Any treatment plan needs to be under the care of your doctor. It's a prescription medication. We'll be right back. Closed caption sponsorship.